Good morning. We're just going live right now to get into a 2-hour trading session where we're going to be trying to capture some live in-game basketball betting opportunities. Briefly, we are Signals. We are Sports Investment Gaming Network and Live Signals. And what we do is we provide live in-game betting opportunities on basketball games. We do a business based on generating over/under lines for international basketball games that are based on our proprietary algorithmic program. So we're doing that for anyone who's viewing this this stream right now, and we are looking to turn this into a subscription basis. We've developed this algorithm over the past 3 years, and we feel that we have some really good track record with it, some great successes, and we'd like to demonstrate those successes and pass those on to viewers and eventually to subscribers. We should go through our disclaimer. Essentially, if you need to, please go ahead and pause the video and read the disclaimer. Essentially, the point of the disclaimer is that we are neither licensed nor authorized to provide any investing, trading, wagering, and/or betting advice whatsoever. All of the information contained within this stream on our website or anywhere else is provided for entertainment purposes only. By subscribing to any of our alerts, notices, and/or signals, you confirm that you understand that it is possible to lose some or all of your money when investing in any sports markets, and you further acknowledge that you cannot hold Signals, that's us, liable or responsible for any such losses. So basically, any signals and live trades that we take today and that we call out, you are responsible for your own losses and or gains if you choose to take those trades as well. We can be contacted via email here at livesportssignals@gmail.com, and of course below is our Twitter address, sports_signals, all caps. Basically, today we will be hopefully calling out live signals. Our software generates 3 risk levels of signal strengths. So the best signal that we can possibly have generated for us by the algorithm would be a low risk trade where there would be a where we would recommend a 1.00 unit play on that particular signal. I just put below $100 as an example. If $100 is a unit, that would be a full $100 unit. Then the algorithm can also generate a normal risk trade opportunity where we would therefore recommend a 3/4 of a unit play. And lastly, the algorithm also generates what we consider to be high risk plays where we would advise that no more than a half a unit be wagered on such a live trading signal. Beyond that, this is our current streaming service. It's intended that we will try and be on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesday or Thursday, and Fridays between 10 a.m. and 12 noon Pacific. Today we're getting on at 11 o'clock, so it'll be 11 till 1. We're looking at approximately 2 hours per day, 4 times a week. So in a calendar month, that's roughly 16 to 18 days. Translates into maybe 32 to 36 hours a month, depending on the month. At the moment, the cost is absolutely free. As I said, we're trying to gain traction and establish ourselves as a premium betting service based on our algorithmic computer-generated signals. We are not handicappers. We use a mathematical equation and computer-generated algorithmic software, which has numerous indicators and variables that we have been working on for the better part of 3 years now, and have, in our opinion, optimized. The performance has been quite good, and we look forward to that performance continuing and to that performance translating into gains for our viewers and subscribers. So That's about all for the introduction. Let's get into the live trading. So what I display on my screen is basically I'll call up let's call up a an online sports book. Let's use Bet365 today. I'll vary them from day to day. We'll never display our accounts on what you see. We use various online sports books for our corporate accounts. You, the viewer and subscribers, should do the same. You should have many options. And this is we'll display this screen for today. We'll call out games and point out to you very clearly what we're looking at and what the trade will be if and when such an opportunity comes up. Beside the computer that you're looking at is our main computer, upon which the algorithm is currently running, and it's doing its work with all of these various games that you can see before you, and we'll monitor those, and I'll call out those signals. So you'll see the video you see is not nearly as relevant as the audio that I broadcast. I'll be calling out the signals live. These live over-under basketball signals are very time sensitive. At any point in time when a signal comes up, although I'll have given you notice, you will have anywhere from, depending on your sports book, you'll probably have anywhere between 2 to 10 seconds max to place this bet and get in on the perceived advantage which exists at that particular time, and we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah, so let's get started. I'll provide more insight as we go along. So all of these games are in the algorithm right now and rolling, and I'll start to comment on anything that looks like it may be close to generating a signal for the algorithm. And so when there is silence, it's just me scrolling through the other computer and making sure that I'm keeping up with any perceived opportunity. The algorithm works automatically because it's computer based, but there is no platform from which to integrate the algorithm into direct trading, such as automated trading, as you could do, for example, in forex trading or the like. So we do need to manually transmit that signal to the viewers and subscribers. So that'll be me by voice. And we do, all of us, yourselves and ourselves, even for our corporate accounts, we have to physically input our trades and be quick on the trigger so as to lock in those trades if and when those opportunities come up. Good selection of games today. Tuesdays internationally, generally a pretty good schedule. If we look at the Slovenia, SKL, KRKA versus Helio Domzale, we are looking at a Q3 total of 29.5, with only 2 seconds to go before that bet disappears. So that bet is gone. The algorithm was displaying an opportunity at 28.5 had it gotten there. We were late to the game on this one because we had gone through our preliminaries, but so I'm not sure whether or not that was a possibility. The last line I saw was 29.5, but the algorithm has been running, it runs 24 hours a day. We just don't necessarily trade 24 hours a day. We do trade on our corporate account outside streaming hour times, but what we want to establish for you, the viewers and eventual subscribers, is that in a 2-hour window, you can treat this as a job. You can pay a very reasonable subscription fee, and you can make good money, pay yourself an extremely generous hourly wage during those 2 hours, and then get on with your day. So that's what we're going to try and establish today and for the days going forward. So let's bear that in mind. Let's always bear that in mind. Our time will always be much more valuable than our money. So let's be on this from 11 a.m. today till 1 p.m. We'll sign off at 1 p.m. and let's hope that we've gotten into a couple of trades, possibly more, that are profitable, and pay ourselves for the day and move on. I do think that there'll be plenty of opportunities today, and it would be patience is the key here. If you look, you can see that the France National One League is just coming online now. They're all in. Sorry, I overclicked. Are they're just coming online now? So you're looking at uh, 8 or so games that are just in Q1 now, just getting underway. So within those and within other European leagues and such that are getting underway, we should find those 2-3 opportunities over the course of the next couple hours that will give us a trading opportunity. Hopefully, we profit from them and move forward. Just coming up on the algorithm now, if we move to the Euro Cup Monaco versus Alba Berlin game, no signal just yet, but we are looking at it, and the algorithm is indicating some interest in this particular game. So this would be the Q3 total, and based on what we're seeing right now, that would be an over wager if we do get the signal. So right now you're looking at over 39. So this would be a Q3 over trade. We're not calling it yet. Algorithm is not calling for it, but that is in fact the game that we're looking at. So we're going to keep monitoring this game. The algorithm likely will generate a signal for this particular game. Let's see what happens over the next few seconds. Okay, so the algorithm has just generated a signal for this particular game. So the line at which we would have a competitive advantage, and this would be a 3/4 unit trade. This would be a 0.75 unit trade. The number would be over 38.5. So if the line gets to over 38.5, we would advise taking this trade. Over 38.5. It's currently 42.5. So again, it's going to take some quick clicking to get this to work for you. So what we advise doing is preloading your bets and being prepared to click on the opportunity if and when it arises. Remember, we're looking at 38.5. We're down to 40.5. Back up to 42. Another basket was scored. There is a real possibility in our experience that this trade will go off. So let's be prepared for 38.5. And so if you look at your if you're trading online, you look at your platform. This particular one here would have you, as the line changes, accept the changes and such. So you should have your risk in there, whatever it is, if it's $100 or whatever, and have it ready. And then you'd want to be in a position to accept the changes and move forward. And move forward quickly. That's the settings of Bet365. Their live settings. I'll take off the sound effects and mute their volume so that we don't get that recurrence. So again, 38.5 is what we're looking for here. Lots of time to attempt to get this one. Bets, quarterly bets on international basketball for most of these online sports books end at the 2-minute mark, at the end of the first quarter, at the end of the first half, at the end of the third quarter. Now in the fourth quarter, it's different. Most bets are no longer taken at the 3-minute mark, but in this particular case, we'd have all the way down to the 2-minute mark, and we're at 3:51 right now in stop time. So there is a potential opportunity here. We just have to see if the game develops and falls within our window. And the algorithm is working on this game in real time, and so it will adjust if there is in fact an adjustment to be made. Not downward. However, it would strictly be upwards. So, for example, we're going to be in this trade as soon as it goes over 38 point. As soon as over 38.5 becomes the line. If there's still time to place bets and the line gets to below 38.5, obviously that's still a trade. And if you haven't pulled the trigger, you'd even be in a better position than us. But the line could, in fact, go up based on what's happening. So we could revise that line upwards if the algorithm, in fact, generates a signal at a higher number for the over, and conversely, a lower number if we were looking at the under. Seems counterintuitive. Seems like the number is going in the opposite direction, but it's actually not. If you're looking for the over, points being scored are actually a good thing. And conversely, with a line going down, points not being scored are a good thing on the under. But I leave that for all of you for another day to discuss. We don't trade based on hunches, on anticipation. We trade on algorithmic signals, and there's an objective benchmark there, and that's what we rely on. We've got an updated signal on this particular game from the algorithm. It's up to over 40.5, over 40.5. I don't think it's going to matter either way. The 33 seconds left to go. I doubt we get an opportunity to enter this trade, but stranger things have happened. You never know. We're looking for over 40.5. If that number does come up, we will take the trade, and we would be in this trade. Oh, there's another basket score. So this game is clearly gone. No, let's move on. This game will not generate a signal for us from which we can enter. The key to our success utilizing this algorithm is discipline. Discipline, because it's an objective signal, and we don't chase trades. We don't go on hunch or gut feel. We don't anticipate trades. We don't we don't do anything that takes us out of the confines of complete discipline, and that involves, uh, as every trader will have experienced on their own, lots of patience. And so we are being patient, and it's a question of patience. It's not a question of cautiousness. We have to be aggressive when the signal is generated. You have to trust your software. You have to trust your program. If you're a handicapper, you have to trust your ability to handicap. It's different. It's different methodologies, but at the end of the day, you've got to be confident in what it is you call, and you have to enter without hesitation, which we will do. A lot more games coming online, so we'll have a ton of games over the next now hour and 40 minutes. We only need, depending on the size of your trade, we only need one or two to pay yourself, one or two winners to pay yourself handsomely for your 2 hours of time. Again, I'm just scrolling through the games that are going live right now. This Monaco game is not relevant to us whatsoever, so we'll take it down. Um, Interestingly enough, you can see that they've now scored 40 points. The first call, the algorithm that generated, was 38 and a half. The second one was 40 and a half. Still a minute and 21. Obviously, those were going to be hit. We just didn't get the number dropped down to that level. Remember, what we're looking for is that short window of opportunity where we do have a distinct advantage over the sports book, which is why we'll have to be quick and surgical, like with our precision as far as executing the trade. But in the interim, we've got to be absolutely patient and wait it out. So the two principal keys to trading our methodology is going to be discipline and execution. If you can focus on those two aspects of your trading methodology, you should do quite well with our system. There'll be a lot of silence on this stream. I am toying with whether or not to have music in the background. Many traders find it beneficial to them to actually have music or something else playing in the background, but then you're left with individual personalities and musical styles and tastes. So I'm not sure that'd be viable, but certainly it's not uncommon for people to enjoy um, listening to music while they're trading, as opposed to operating in silence. So France National One League, there are a few games where the clock is starting to tick down in Q2. Hopefully, we get an opportunity in one of those games. Also in Q2 in the Basketball Champions League is the Antwerp Giants game. It's a great league, great opportunities. So we'll see if that game might yield something for us as well. Not much happening at the moment though that would lean towards a trade. Just going to move away from the Antwerp game and scroll on the algorithm and look at a few others. But I do like how the Antwerp game is developing. So there may be a an opportunity there that will be generated by the algorithm. Yeah, nothing tremendous in the other games. Let's So first signal has been generated for the Antwerp game by the algorithm. It's an overtrade. It would be over 65.5. Lots of time left. Don't know whether or not that line will come into play. So we'd be looking at a first half bet. So first half, and we're looking at over 65.5 is what we're trying to get in at. This would be also a 3/4 unit trade. So call that up on your screen and be prepared. 65.5 is the number, over 65.5. We're not too terribly far off on this one, so it is possible that our trading signal of over 65.5 3/4 unit trade will go live. Remember 65.5, we're at 66.5. So at over 65.5, we will be in this trade. Back up to 68.5. We had 66.5, but that was not the signal generated by the algorithm. That will happen very frequently. You can't get frustrated. You have to understand that this is a long-term game, not a short-term scenario. You simply walk away. You don't chase. you could chase and get lucky or not, but at that point you've lost your distinct advantage. You're doing no better than flipping a coin. We don't chase and we don't flip coins here. 65 and a half. We're within a point. Just so close. I don't know what sports book you happen to be using. I mean, you may already be you may have gotten lucky and gotten in this trade already. At over 65.5, depending on the sports book. Our particular sports book, we did not get into this trade. We are not yet in this trade. So there's over 65.5 showing. We have attempted to get in this trade, and let's see where we are in the trade at over 65.5. This is a live trade over 65.5 on the Antwerp Giants versus Dijon. This is an over signal that was generated by our proprietary algorithm. We're in at 65 and a half, over 65 and a half. And let's see what happens and how this game transpires. We don't enter into more than one game at a time. Even though the algorithm, of course, is constantly working, as a betting strategy, we limit ourselves to one live bet at a time, and we gauge our success, gauge the algorithm's success, and we go from there. We never enter into more than one trade at a time. Reason for that is that sports books, of course, are continuously updating and changing their lines, and they have various strategies that they utilize with which to change their lines. Which is exactly which is intended to cause deviations and fluctuations in what would otherwise be trends and predictable patterns, so that trading such as ours, algorithmic trading, computer generated trading, that sort of thing, is rendered more difficult. So that's just a reality. That's the world we operate in. Line has gone all the way down to 62 and a half. 62 and a half. We are also adding 62 and a half, which we have got. We have that trade live. We've added 62 and a half to our live trade. So we have two trades on this. So we have a trade of 3/4 of a unit on the first part, and an additional trade of 3/4 of a unit on the second part. So that is a 1.5 unit trade on this particular game. So we'll see where we go with that. Time is ticking down very rapidly. A bit surprising. Doesn't look like the first trade will work. Perhaps the second one will, although scoring has dropped off quite considerably. But who can say? So we'll just let this one play out. Not an auspicious debut. It looks like this particular trade is struggling. You never know, but we'll see. Yeah, this first half is dwindling down very quickly. No stoppages, and clearly not very many baskets. So this game is not likely going to give us a positive trade on our first trade. We'll move on to our second trade as soon as the clock expires on this particular game. Okay, let's move on. This one is not going to work. Plenty of shots taken, no baskets made. This one is an under, not an over. So that is a loss of 1.5 units on this particular trade. Remove that, and we'll look for what the algorithm could generate next. Looking at these France national games, no signals being generated. Play is getting near halftime on many of these games, but no signals as of yet. Okay, so we're now looking at another signal that is about to be generated. It is in the France National One League, Feur EF versus Aubenas, and that is a first half bet. So first half, looking for the signal to be generated. It looks imminent. This will be a full unit bet, 1.00 units. This will be over 86.5. So it's over, and 86.5 is the number, not 88.5, which is the current line. 86.5. If you can get it, one full unit at 86.5 over. Almost had it. 86.5 came up. We attempted to take the trade. Our trade was rejected, so we're still looking at 86.5. We were almost in that trade. The number did come up, 86.5, so we'll call it out as a trade potential. We can't. It may come up again. It's very close. Be ready. It's at 87.5. 86.5 is the number. 86.5. So it's up again. The number came up again. We're trying to take this trade, see if it gets accepted or rejected. Ours is accepted, so we are in the trade at 86.5. Over 86.5, we are live in this trade, one full unit. So let's hope for some additional scoring this time around. We are in this trade at 86.5. One full unit, 86.5. And that was the first half total. As I mentioned, there would be and will be a few opportunities that come up today. We are screening for the very best opportunities and hoping for the best outcome. While you do have a competitive edge at the moment, you get the line that we call out. Of course, there being time left to be played, and this being a sporting event, the game does in fact have to be played. And as we all know, baskets or shots are made and missed all the time. Fouls are committed and not committed, or not committed. Team strategies vary heading down to the end of a half. There's so many variables and factors. It's practically an endless number of permutations that can happen in any one of these games. And as I say, it's a long-term process. We're in it for the long haul. We hope that we'll attract subscribers who will be equally in it for the long haul. Over time, the algorithm does perform quite well, and sometimes just based on the circumstances of the games in which it generates signals, it can go on quite a nice run. All of these games, for the other than the first game we just called, which was just, it wasn't even close. But for the most part, these games are going to be close. You aren't going to lose by a lot. It's not uncommon to lose by half a point, but you should never consider that a bad beat, as handicappers would say when they lose by half a point. This is a different game. This is math. This is an algorithm. This is statistical probabilities. No such thing as a bad beat, because we'll be thrilled to death when we beat the sports book by that half point and we win by half a point. So you'll find that those numbers balance out in the end. No such thing as bad beats in algorithmic trading. A win is a win, a loss is a loss, and you just have to accept it. So it looks like we're good here. We are paid at over 86.5. Barely got there. Well, no, a big basket there at the end to send it way over. So first half ends at 90 points, and we needed over 86.5, which we did take. So that is a full unit play, and that is a successful trade. So we're happy about that, and we'll continue with looking for other trades. So to recap where we're at, we had that one trade where we put in 3/4 of a unit. We did add another 3/4 of a unit to that trade because the number had dropped significantly. Unfortunately, that trade was not successful. We don't advise, by the way, chasing and adding to positions. That's something that it's an individual thing. We don't provide advice on money management. We don't provide advice on trading strategy. We just generate the signals and call them out. So the algorithm had generated an initial signal. There was still plenty of time, and so the numbers were fluctuating. The algorithm generated another signal, which was at a quite lower number, to try and get that over. So we went ahead and took it. We called it out as a signal. Of course, there are never any obligations for any viewers or subscribers to take any trade, let alone what was just called out. So and again, we're not liable or responsible for any of those calls, but in any event, that's what happened. So both of those were unsuccessful. So that was a 0.75 and a 0.75 for a negative 1.50 units. And now we just successfully entered into a a full 1.00 unit play at over 86 and a half, and we were successful on on that on that trade. So let's move on. As Kenny would say, you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. So let's get away from that, and let's keep playing and see where we end up. A lot of these games have hit halftime, so there may be a little bit of a lull. Yeah, not much happening right now. Just the silence doesn't mean I've gone anywhere. Um, just scrolling through what's currently happening and what's pending. A lot of games at the halfway point. Just throw out another point while there's a break in the action here. Um, these European basketball leagues, many of them alternate. The men play on the one day, and the women play on the other day. Um, uh, we don't discriminate in terms of our signal selection. Um, the the algorithm is as valid and has proven historically over the past 3 years to be as reliable and as consistent with both men's and women's basketball. So if we are to get a live algorithmic signal on an over/under bet in game for a women's basketball game, we would call that signal out as well, and we would be taking that signal if we could get into that game. Um, I know that, for example, handicappers don't always like to take women's basketball games. For example, the WNBA or women's NCAA basketball are not handicapped, nor are they wagered upon nearly as much as the men's games. We're talking about a fraction of the wagering for the women's games, but from a strictly mathematical and statistical standpoint, those games are as reliable and as valid in algorithmic trading. So plenty of opportunity here to take a break and do something else while we wait. While we wait and there isn't much happening, have a bit of a case of buyer's remorse. Looking back at that Antwerp game and looking at how the scoring was or lack of scoring was developing, um, obviously seems prudent now to not have added to the position. Of course, hindsight's 2020, and the the corporate account here. There are two of us who trade. Um, the algorithmic signal is purely objective, and the instructions are to take that initial trade and get in the trade every single time as quickly as you can. Um, in terms of adding on, as we did and unsuccessfully did, that's a very subjective aspect to anyone's trading. And interestingly enough, I often probably predominantly err on the side of caution and don't add. Um, perhaps I did so in my eagerness here to establish some sort of traction on this streaming day and provide some evidence of the algorithm's effectiveness. In any event, it didn't work out, and until 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 I move on from that fact, it's very little success will be possible. You can't be caught in the past or worried about the future. You've got to be in the present at all times when you're doing this, as was evidenced by our taking the second trade. We had quickly moved on from that first trade loss. Got in the zone, found that second trade, didn't hesitate for a second, took it, and got the successful trade. Make no mistake about it, we'll be doing the very same thing as soon as games get back up and going here, and we find that third trade, which I'm sure we will find. Third quarter action starting to get underway. A couple of games that started a bit later now in the second quarter. So the opportunities are going to be there. Let's find another one and let's pounce on it. The Slovenia women's game is developing very, very slowly. Um, Not looking like it will generate a signal in any event. France National League, that's where a lot of the action is centered on right now. Few games are now in the third quarter. A couple of games in the second quarter, others are at halftime. We'll do all the heavy lifting here. We'll screen through those games. We'll identify the games that the algorithm is likely to generate a signal on, and we'll direct you towards that game in plenty of time to both call out the signal if and when it comes, and give you that time to have preset your wager, and give you that opportunity to click in the very same manner as we have, and give you that opportunity to profit. The Coupe de France game is a lopsided score in the third quarter, but from a third quarter bet standpoint, the algorithm is that game is popping up on the screen. No signal, but the game is certainly popping up and being considered. the Basketball Champions League games are not. I'll get the screen back up here too. All of the basketball games that are going on. My focus has been on the computer beside the screen you're viewing, which is the computer that is processing all the games in play and running the analytics. As I mentioned, it's not possible to interface both the sportsbook and the algorithmic program that we're using. So it requires two computers side by side, which of which the one running the algorithm is the one I'm mostly focused on. The screen I display for viewing purposes is just any online sportsbook from which you could see the game that I'm looking at, just so it makes it easier for you to find the game. The reason you won't see the computer with the algorithm generating is for proprietary intellectual property purposes. We don't have this software. We don't have it patented or in any way protected. It's in-house stuff, and the costs to protect that software would be cost prohibitive anyway. So we don't want to be well, there have been attempts in the past when we disclose too much. We don't want to be hacked or reverse engineered. We've put 3 years of our time and effort into it. There's a lot of value added to it, and we think that we can provide that value added content and that service to subscribers, and that's how we're operating. So I'll scroll through the games and call them out just to give progress updates. Antwerp Giants, nothing going on. The Strasbourg game is getting the Strasbourg versus Virtus Bologna Basketball Champions League. That one has now popped up on the screen and is at the top of the list for a potential signal being generated, although there's nothing imminent at the moment. Similarly, the UCAM Murcia versus Ludwigsburg game, also in the Basketball Champions League Q2, that game is also on the radar, but not about to yield a signal right now. France National, I'm going through those. Nothing, no probables. No. Just looking at the Bordeaux game and to see if anything was imminent there. Nothing at all. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to sort of pre-assess what the algorithm could be picking up on before it generates a signal, so as to give us some time to set ourselves up and prepare for the trade. I'm by no means anticipating a trade and calling a trade early. I am waiting for the algorithm to generate the trade, but I am trying to and anticipate what our likely candidates are, so that we don't get caught off guard with a trade signal and we're not prepared to react. So it's important that we make that distinction. And so that's what I do. I scroll back and forth between games. And I recycle through them, just trying to gauge where that opportunity is going to come from. And sometimes it just comes in a game that you completely would not or could not have anticipated, and we try to jump on it as quickly as possible. If we miss it, we miss it. I mean, there's always another trade, there's always another day, and the business here is the long-term growth and success. So you got to live to trade another day, and you've got to roll with whatever is given to you on that particular day. A lot of lopsided scores, which make for interesting analytics from an algorithmic standpoint. But again, we don't need to worry about that. Let's let the algorithm do its job and calculate the permutations. We're just looking for a really clean, simple, easy over underline, and we're going to try and capitalize from it. Just from personal experience, I'm seeing many games that have a few of the indicators that could yield an algorithmic signal, but they also have many flaws within them as well, which would negate that signal. So that's why we're not getting anything at the moment. And that's ultimately that's a good thing. It's great that the algorithm screens out trades that have um, that have flawed parameters within the game, which would cause anomalies in terms of scoring. We don't want to be involved in any games like that. It's great to say, yeah, I want to be involved in one because of statistical and scoring anomalies. But if you're on the wrong side of that trade, you've got no chance whatsoever. Catch yourself on the right side of it. Obviously, it's likely to be an easy winner. But again, you're likely also flipping a coin at that point, which we don't have any interest in doing. Closest game to go off for a signal is our good friend, the Antwerp Giants game again. It's not going to happen. It's the time is just about to go under 2 minutes right now. There was no signal. Can't say I'm disappointed in that fact. Now Strasbourg, Virtus, Bologna. You're looking at a first half total. It's the signal is not quite there, but the parameters are close. So let's call that up. There isn't much time left. There's 26 seconds, but we are in a stoppage at this point because of the free throws. Let's see if we can if there will be a signal generated here. So there is a signal, but it can't possibly be hit. It's over 88.5 is the signal here, but we're down to 5 seconds. It's not going to get there. No. Simply a case of no signal generated until there was virtually no time left to place a trade, and the difference between the algorithmic line and the sportsbook line, it was too big a gap. It was just never going to be bridged, which is not a problem. Just patience, keep looking. Again, this is the reason why we want to spend 2 hours doing this, not a minute more. Again, your time is more valuable than your money, and you want to always be fresh while you're doing this because the process is methodical, and it takes a certain level of focus. Okay, so we're looking at very, very potential signal coming up here in the UCAM Mercia versus Ludwigsburg game. That's going to be a that's going to be a halftime first half. Over under. Lost my words. It's an over under for the first half. It is it's only a half unit play though. It is a 0.50 unit play. And if a signal comes up, I will pass it on. But I do believe we're likely to get a signal on this particular game. So 43 points scored. The ask is currently 55.5. No signal. $52.5. Signal just generated over 52.5 on this particular game. 52.5. Over 52.5. We're down to 53.5. That game almost went off, but it did not. So we're looking again at over 52.5. Over 52.5. So no trade on that particular game. It came down to 53.5 as we can see here on the screen. Suspended trading because we've gone below that 2-minute mark. Not much scoring though. Quite truthfully, not sure that it would have scored. It would have worked for us anyway. And I'm not going to stick around to find out. Let's move on. Telecom game is not happening. Not sure my speakers. Just sorry about that. Just checking on the audio. I didn't have an audio feed, and it didn't seem like my microphone was working. I believe it is. Yeah. So the telecom game is not yielding a signal just yet. It may. Scrolling down into France National. No, nothing there either. A lot of games to scroll through and keep track of. Nope, nothing there either. I was looking at again a France national one game. can't pronounce it, but it's the SASP Basket Club Ortiz game. But no, there was no signal there. Looking at the Toulouse versus La Charite game at this point, the algorithm is lighting up and looking. There's not going to be much time though to see if we get a signal. This would be a full unit play. A full unit play. This would be for Q3. Not sure if we can generate that signal. Just under 3 minutes. Stoppage and play. We'll likely get a signal as soon as there goes play. Over 43.5. Over 43.5 is the number. 43.5. They just scored, so that number may revise up. We'll see if the algorithm comes up with anything. Went up by a basket, so now they're scoring. Now they're scoring off the charts. We just missed that one. You're looking at 14 seconds of play before the trade goes away, and the signal is not going to be generated. No, that's it for that game. We had 43.5, and that one basket made it not possible because we were getting close to getting there. In any event. Yep, nothing else. A lot of these games are ticking down to the end of the third quarter. And we are now 1 hour and 15 minutes into our 2-hour session. Again, our recap, we had one lost trade, 3/4 of a unit. We doubled it up to 1.5 units. That was a loser. Likely ill-advised. A more prudent trader would have lost 3/4 of a unit on that one. We lost 1.5, and then we followed it up with another trade, which was a full unit. We did win that one. So anyone could be up a 1/4 unit to down a 1/2 a unit based on the two signals that we've generated so far. But there's still 45 minutes to go, and we're optimistic that we can get another trade or two off. At least put us plus on the day. By the way, the games that we took earlier, if a second opportunity comes up to take them in a later quarter, those games are available for trading. Although psychologically, those are often, and that's just purely a subjective mindset of the trader thing. It has nothing to do with the algorithm. It doesn't matter one way or the other. But if you've already played a game and you won on that game, you hate to then go down on it and lose. Or if you've already lost in the game, sometimes psychologically you feel like that game's not your game and you're going to lose it. Anyway, just pointing that out. Okay, looking at another game here that's coming up on the screen. Let me get rid of this Toulouse game. It didn't work for us. I'm looking at Saint-Vallier Basket versus Sorgues Basket. Let's find that one right here. St. Vallier Basket Drome versus Sorgues Basket Club. It's going to be the third quarter that we're looking at. Presently over 32.5. This is a three-quarter unit play if it does come up. Number's 29.5. The trade has just come up. It's over 29.5, over 29.5. This is a 0.75 unit trade. Not going to get it. We're going to miss it by 1 point. We're just not going to get there. No. It got down to 30.5, and it was there for quite a bit of time that we could have taken, but that game's gone. Not to worry, we move on. Of course, long term, if we can average 2-1, we're well above industry standards. And if you can keep your money management and your account management strategies in check, and respect the unit delineations for these trades, you'll have profitable days, which will turn into profitable weeks, and at the end of the month you'll be profitable, and you can do that going forward. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. Just going to mute myself out for a second here, but I'm still on. If anything comes up, I'll be on, but I'm just muting myself out temporarily. Just getting back on now. Just took a little bit of a break there. Nothing, nothing imminent coming off in any event. No, nothing at all. So let's focus on the Basketball Champions League. We're going to look at the Strasbourg game and the UCAM game. The Euro Cup game is moving forward. That's a game we're going to look at for the second and third quarters. Nothing happening there, but we're looking at that one. Pop up a screen here. So Strasbourg, we're interested in that. UCAM, we're interested. This Euro Cup game right here, we're interested in. In France National League, there's a bunch of games where the second half's going to get going, so we're interested in all of those. So that's Vendy, Get. Well, not a bunch of those, it turns out. And Bordeaux. So 3 of those we're interested in. The women's game never did go anywhere, and the score is extremely flawed. So we're not looking at that. The Italy regional U20 games. There's a couple of games there that we could end up looking at before our time's up, and that's it. Those the Coupe de France and Czech Republic games are going to be gone, so those are gone. So we're looking at those are the games we're looking at. Almost getting to the 1.5 hour streaming point, so we're down to about 35 minutes of streaming time. As mentioned several times over the course of this stream, we're 1-1, 0.75 loss in the first trade, and 1.00 win in the second trade. And if we want to talk profitability, everyone's profitability will vary depending on which sportsbook you were using, depending on what odds you received when the line came up, and what you got. As you see in in-game live betting, particularly over underlines, the odds that you receive for any particular wager you make are changing and fluctuating literally by the second. So we all get different price points in terms of our rate of return on these bets. So our profitability is all going to vary depending on the sports book and depending on the time at which our trade is confirmed. So we'll assess profitability and viability of the algorithm and the service we provide in unit measurement rather than in dollars and cents, and that'll be before commissions, not after commissions, as I said, because everyone's commission rates are going to vary, and ultimately the service is not about how much we can or do make. It's rather about how much the viewers and ultimate subscribers make. It's irrelevant what we do. Success is based on the objective characteristics of the algorithm and the subjective abilities of the individual traders, and that varies tremendously. Anything that goes into Q4, we generally don't end up taking. The algorithm generally doesn't yield fourth quarter signals. It sometimes does, but um, uh, just for practical purposes, you should be prepared to be looking at entering trades that are in Q2 and Q3. So Q2 represent first half or 1H trades, and Q3 are Q3 trades. We'll eventually develop a common lingo on these streams so that we're all speaking and understanding the same language, and we'll develop a symbiotic language that's shorter and easily understood by everyone, so that we don't have to spell everything out. Nothing happening on the games that are in Q3 at the moment. I'm scrolling through the. I actually don't have to scroll through anything on the algorithm. They're all up on one page. There's very few games, and I'm looking at them, and there's nothing that's imminent. Like to see something develop in that Basketball Champions League Strasbourg game. We almost got a trade off on that one in the at the end of the first half. We just missed it. It'd be nice to. I like the. I personally like how that game is progressing, and I think if we did generate an algorithmic signal, it could be extremely reliable. And the same cannot be said for the UCAM game, which is also in the third quarter. Again, such a lopsided score, obviously skewed scoring. Wouldn't be my first pick for potential trade. But if the algorithm analytics spots something that feels it's a reliable trade, then of course we'll take it. Similarly, with the Italian U20 league, that first game that is in the 3-quarter mark, I scroll through it here if I find it. Yeah, this one right here, Generazonio, Vincente Napoli game. Again, the score is extremely one-sided, and that typically doesn't lead to tremendous trading opportunities on the over-under. So patience will be the key here. We're down to a half an hour. 1-1, 3-quarter loss, 1 unit win would not be a dreadful start. It'd be acceptable. Bearing in mind that, as mentioned, it's a long-term game. Euro Cup game is the one that has the most potential right now, according to the algorithm. Not that there's anything there, but that's this Limoges versus Cervena Savada, or however you pronounce it. The Euro Cup game right here. Yep, still scrolling through the games and status quo. Might be one of those times where significant number of games just not yielding opportunities, and some days you're struggling to decide which one to take because the algorithm is generating 2-3 signals at a time. Just varies. By the way, if there ever was an instance where the algorithm generated 2-3 signals at a time, we'd do our very best to call them out instantaneously. It would totally be up to the individual user and subscriber to determine how to deal with that, how to, take as many as you can, take whatever, I don't know. Very subjective at that point. You'd take whatever you can, and again, that's why at the end of the day, the only measurement on the validity of the algorithm and the value of the service provided is your individual performance, not what we claim to be our performance. Even our performance is subjective because, as I said, we do have two traders, and our trading strategies do differ slightly. I'm the better trader, in case you're asking. I can say that because there's no one here in the room with me. So our Strasbourg game is popping up on the screen. It's got a lot of potential. It's still a little early, but it has potential to be a full 1 unit play. This would be a 1 unit play according to the algorithm, and this would be for the third quarter. So bring it up we'll bring it up on the screen. Currently 41.5 is the line. So I was saying Strasbourg, third quarter number, down to 39.5. This is a potential 1 unit play. It's not a play yet. Still waiting. We've got a stoppage in play here, which is why there's no there foul situation as well. Still not generating a signal. Sorry, I was just turning my microphone on and off. A little bit of activity around me here. Yeah, we're still waiting on the Strasbourg game. It's got potential. It's got potential to be our next one. We saw the line briefly all the way up to 41.5. Now it's down to 37.5. So there's some good fluctuation in this game. We want to be on the right side of that fluctuation. Scoring is certainly not off the charts, so it's there isn't much to report as time dwindles by. The analytics utilize whatever data they can process. But it's a slow moving game. Slow moving game. Let's see if we generate a signal or not. Okay, first signal. Full unit play on this game is over. It's an over bet over 34.5, over 34.5, over 34.5 is the number. So over 34.5 just came up. Let's see if we get in this trade. We have attempted to take the trade, and we are in this trade at over 34 and a half. So let's see how this game progresses. The game's ticking down quickly, and there aren't not much scoring going on. It may have been a premature call that won't work, but the algorithm did generate a signal. If you've waited on this, the number is definitely under 34 and a half at this point. So if you haven't taken it and you wish to take it, still a valid trade available there. Unlike what we did on our first trade, we're not going to add to this trade. We'll live with the consequences. Algorithm generated a trade signal, and we've taken it. See what happens. So we're gonna just watch this game play out. As I said, we're not looking to take another one once we are in a trade. We'll assess once we're out of the trade. Certainly, unless things change dramatically, it looks as though this was a premature signal that was not was destined to lose. Anything's possible, but the scoring has all but stopped at this point. So there's nothing going on. And the last opportunity to take our signal, which got considerably lower, is about to expire. And it has expired. Just based on experience, I would say that this one is not going to be successful. I would think there's little chance for this trade to be successful. So we'll be moving on, looking for another one. We'd need some consistent scoring over the next minute or so to really take this one over. So again, we're looking at the Strasbourg versus Virtus Bologna game. We had a live signal that was generated by the algorithm at over 34.5. We called out that signal. We are in that live trade. There were many opportunities to take the trade at a number that was below that if for anyone who would have hesitated and taken their time. Of course, we don't advocate anyone hesitating or taking your time. You've got to be decisive on these opportunities. You take them, and you live with the consequences. We're going to watch this play out, and we'll see where we end up. Hopefully we end up on the positive side of this trade. It was a signal that was called. Signal was generated quite early by the algorithm, and we took it immediately, hoping for a positive outcome here. Interesting thing about international basketball and these sports books and these live betting, the reporting that goes on is always, of course, an issue in terms of what did happen and what didn't happen. And so you got to really, really wait till the time ticks right down to understand whether you've scored a basket has in fact been scored or not. And so far on this particular case, it looks like they're posting 36 as a final score in this game, which means our over 34.5 did in fact win. Everything under that was there for available for quite some time also won, and that was again a full unit play. So we're now looking at another win on the day, which puts us at 2-1. So we had a 0.75 loss, we had a 1.00 win, and now another 1.00 win. All in an hour and 45 minutes. So 3 trades, not bad. Let's see if we can find one last trade before we go. But at the moment, we'll consider ourselves to be 2-1. Which is not half bad, depending on the size of your what a unit represents to you, the individual trader. Could be well worth your hour and a half time. Otherwise, maybe perhaps a little bit less. But again, it's a cumulative process over time. Certainly, we'd take 2-1 every single day going forward. No doubt you, the viewer, would as well. Let's keep looking. Maybe we can go 3-1. Let's see if we find anything else. So we're looking at I'm looking at the Bordeaux game here. Let me get this off the screen. This somehow managed to here's the Bordeaux game here that I'm talking about. There's some algorithmic response to that one, and the time is ticking down quite quickly on that one. So let's be on top of that one just in case a signal is coming. So if it does, it appears like it would be a half a unit play, 0.50. Nothing yet. Please don't go chasing anything, but it does look like it could be a possibility. Scrolling through the rest of the games, not seeing anything else that is particularly interesting on the computer screen of where the algorithm is running. Yeah, that's really our only game, and that one's quickly disappearing. It's at we've got a stoppage in play, but we're at 2:19. Anyway, I'm looking at that game, and I'll report. I had muted myself out. The mail came and the dog was going crazy. So nothing on that Bordeaux game. There was no signal generated. We've got one last stoppage in time before the 2 minute mark, which would be the time at which no more bets are taken. But we are not in a position where the signal was generated. So there is no bet here. We don't have the signal to go ahead with this particular play. And that's it. We're below the 2 minute mark, so that game has gone as well. Bunch of games in Q4. As I said, the algorithm rarely yields Q4 opportunities. If you are very much experienced with these basketball games, you'll probably have a sense as to why that might be. Again, all of those various statistical occurrences that happen are all captured and calculated within the algorithm. And if we do generate a signal, we would let you know, of course, but we don't anticipate any Q4 signals. That's not what the algorithm was designed to do. Predominantly, it can, but it's not what it was designed to do. So with that said, we are at the 1 hour and 50 minute point. And I see as two games that could therefore potentially give us a signal in the last 10 minutes. So the first would be the Limoges versus Cervena Zvezda, however you would pronounce that game, this Euro Cup game. That would be a Q3 signal. And the only other possibility would be this Italian regional U20 game. And that would be a Q2 signal for this Girardiana Monza U20 versus AS Monza U20 game. Looking at the score, that is an incredibly skewed score. If the algorithm were to trigger a signal, we'd of course take it. But my own personal subjective biases, I'm not a huge fan of games where the scoring is so skewed. In any event, we would watch Q2 and see what progresses in these last 10 or so minutes. Still looking at these last few games. Of course, they're at the half in the Euro Cup game that I just pointed out. So depending on how long the halftime break lasts, we probably won't even get into that game. So we're likely left strictly with the Q2 in this Italy Regional U20 League game between Vincente Napoli and Virtus Pisanola. So that would be a first half line that we would be looking at. Sorry, I've called up the wrong. I've called up the game. I'm looking at the wrong one here, but names are so close that I clicked on the wrong one. This one here. So the Monza U20 versus AS Monza U20. That would be a first half score that we'd be looking at. So here's the first half here. So the first half total is 61.5, and so that's what we'd be looking at playing. There will be, I venture to say, no other opportunities during our live streaming session. So let's focus on that game, and let's see where we get. And we might take it all the way down to the point where no more trades are acceptable before we, if we don't get in before we sign off. No point in signing off if we're a minute or two away from a potential entry point. We'd want to capture that entry point. The psychology of the trader is interesting. You don't want to chase trades or try to recoup losses or that sort of thing. That's never going to lead to good things. But by the same token, you don't want to be so ultra conservative as to limit yourself or prevent yourself from taking additional trades when you're clinging to a small gain on the day, such as we are, being 2-1. 2-1 is obviously better than 2-2, but by the same token, 3-1 is better than 2-1. So always assume that what we do, what our algorithm does, is designed to win. So always assume that a signal is a winning signal, or will lead you to a winning outcome. I mean, you have a competitive edge over the sports book at the moment in time the signal is generated. Take the bet on the assumption that edge will continue and ultimately lead to a successful trade. Otherwise, at what point do you determine when to start or when to continue? So you have to as I mentioned, exercise discipline, and you have to be spot on in your execution. Discipline means we don't chase and we don't take trades for no reason, no reason at all other than a signal generated by the algorithm. And execution is when that signal comes up, you act decisively without hesitation. Anyway, all that to say that we're at the 7.5. 7 3/4 minute mark in this game, and let's see where it's going. It's not even showing up on the algorithm, by the way, as a potential trade. There's not much going on with this game that would, from a statistical standpoint, be calling out to us at this point, but that can change. Strasbourg actually Q4 is looking mildly more interesting to the algorithm than the game that I've got up on the screen, but that's not imminent in any way. So I'll be monitoring this Gerardiana Monza U20 and AS Monza game But before we sign off, I just wanted to go back to our little document that we have here up on the screen. Again, our streaming schedule is Monday, which was yesterday, Tuesdays from 10 till noon. Exceptionally, it was 11 till 1 today. Tomorrow we will be on from 10 till noon. We will not be on Thursday, and we will be on again on Friday from 10 till noon Pacific time. So 2-hour streaming, again available tomorrow and Friday. These are our signal strengths, as I've been pointing out throughout the entire stream: 1 unit, 3/4 unit, half unit, depending on the strength of the signal generated by the algorithm, which dictates everything we do over here at Signals. This is how you can reach us: our email address and our Twitter handle, and our disclaimer, of course, which we went over at the beginning of the broadcast. This is who we are. This is what we do. And other than that, we'll get back to our stream, our live game here that we're looking at for the last couple minutes, see if anything comes up. The algorithm hasn't identified this game over any other game as being particularly compelling, so it doesn't look like it'll come off. So we will almost assuredly put ourselves down as having gone 2-1 today. The 0.75 unit loss in the first bet, I'll make a note that I, as a subjective trader, did in fact choose to add an additional 0.75 units at a lower number on the over in anticipation of a wash trade there. Didn't happen, so I'll point that out. We then had 2 other signals that were generated. Both were 1.00 unit plays, and both of those were fairly easy winners. Actually, they were good by at least a couple of points each, which was nice to see. So that would put us 2-1 on the day. Acceptable, certainly acceptable. If you go 2-1, you're certain long term, and you can substantiate it and monetize it. You're certainly well above industry standards, and it's in fact I would argue unsustainable over the extreme long term. So 2-1 on any day is always fantastic, because there will be days where that just won't be possible. Of course, we're always optimistic and looking for the best results possible, but they won't always be achieved, as we all know. That Euro Cup Limoges game is going as well. Actually, more interest in that than there is this U20 game, which is basically going nowhere. Now, this U20 game would be a 0.5 unit play if it did come into play, and it's not looking particularly promising. So the only game we're looking at is the Limoges game, right here, the Euro Cup game. Which will take some time to develop. I believe there's a timeout being called in any event. So with that, we're going to sign off. We've gone over the 2-hour point here, so let's restrict ourselves to 2 hours. Again, we are Signals. It was a successful trading day today. Two wins, one loss, and we'll put that one in the books as being complete, and we'll come back again tomorrow at the regular time of 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Pacific time, and try and see if we can do better or increase our profitability. Thanks for watching this live stream, and we're signing off.